Hi there everyone, Lars back with another manga review and recommendation. This time for I'm Addicted to Her. Or should we say, I'm addicted to her abs. Brought to you by Camille's Harem. Not just a podcast for novice writers by novice writers, but also a YouTube channel by novice writers for novice writers. Because writing is an adventure, it's more fun with friends. And like so many other muscle mama manga out there, it was given a rather abrupt ending, which is really sad to see because it had over 30 chapters. You would think that at this point that there was a good trajectory for it to see success, unlike my beloved Hunter's Guild. Oh, that one is still so painful to think about. But in any case, I was really surprised to see that this manga had come to an end, and it's really sad because it came about at the same time that Please Don't Tease Me, Miss Nagatoro ended, and so I just got this double whammy. There's two romantic manga now, whoop, out of my life. But that doesn't mean that this isn't a really fun story, and it's one that I do recommend. Sure, at face value, you might say, oh man, this just seems like a display for all kinds of fetishes, from muscles to sweat to armpits. Say what? And yes, there are definitely some weird moments in this particular manga, and yet I highly recommend it because it delivers on some very real aspects of good romance that you just don't see a whole lot in so many other rom-coms. Namely, time, proximity, and just simply good communication. So with that being set up, let me introduce you to our characters. We have Natsuki, who is the gorgeous top-tier athlete with the fantastic washboard abs. And then we have Tamiya, who is your quintessential nerd who has no health, no stamina whatsoever, is the typical shonen manga loner who hangs out by himself because, hey, that's what being an adolescent is all about, being a loner, right? Well, his calm, peaceful days within the literature club, which is his safe haven from everyone else, where he can just enjoy his nerdy books and everything to his heart's content, all of that peace comes to an end when Natsuki swoops on into his room and hides behind him in his beanbag to avoid the track team leader, who is like, you must train with us, we must do our Spartan workouts. And Natsuki's like, I don't want to have anything to do with this. Look at me, I'm already ripped, I'm good, but all of this incessant training is making track and field really a drag. Hey, and I like reading shonen manga. Can I read this with you? And so, much to his chagrin, amazement, and bewilderment, because he just wants to be a loner, Tamiya lets Natsuki hang out with him in the literature club room whenever she just wants to escape her duties in the track and field club and lays around a little. Now this is where I really enjoyed the unique setup for these two characters to eventually have a romance, because there are no childhood connections between these two. They've never talked before, they've never had a class together. He just happens to know her because she's one of the most popular girls on campus. She obviously doesn't know him, and he does not want her to be there. But because this is now a safe haven where she can also come and hang out and laze about, they now start spending a lot of time in close proximity to each other. And while Tamiya is always trying to come up with some kind of way to just oust her, well, good, proper Japanese customs and traditions dictate that he's got to be an hospitable host, which therefore means that he ends up doing more to invite her over despite his inclinations to the contrary. And what this then leads to is them having conversations, which, yeah, the opening conversations and situations that they have are just absolutely unnatural and weird and awkward, but he keeps inviting her back accidentally in some cases, and she's just such a wild and pure innocent thing that there's really no reason for him to argue against it other than the fact that she's intruding in on his space. So, as a result, an unlikely friendship begins to develop, and because of time, proximity, and communication, because they're just around each other, they're complete opposites with no history, they get to know each other. and they begin to find aspects of one another that they like, that motivate them, and eventually Tamiya specifically, to keep coming back until they then have a solid friendship, which then over time becomes a romance. And yes, there of course are all of these weird fetish moments, which I will say this, are usually very tongue-in-cheek. It's as though the mangaka is like, yes, I know what you guys normally get within a muscle mama manga. I know what kinds of things you people expect nowadays from what teens are going through. I will play into that, but I'm also going to be like, yeah, you're really weird. Because there's all these moments of great commentary throughout the manga from secondary characters, or even from Tamiya himself, where he realizes, this is stupid. Why is this happening? This is dumb. This isn't romantic. Which is then why the later chapters end up being so good, because you go through, of course, the typical we must go to the beach moment, oh, let's go home in the rain moment, and you get some really interesting scenes where Tamiya, for instance, actually doesn't go with Natsuki home in the rain. Therefore, the romantic moment is lost. And because that romantic moment is lost, he's later on like, what if I actually do want to spend time with her? Which then leads to them hanging out during the summer, but they're at school, and Tamiya's like, wow, this is just not a great summer vacation. To which the Natsuki's like, then why don't we go to the beach? So of course they go to the beach, but no, she's not in the quite revealing swimsuit that you would have expected, which makes him a little bit disappointed, but he still ends up having a good time with her. And it's good. It ends up being actually way more wholesome than you would have expected. And again, it comes down to time, proximity, and communication. As weird and as bizarre as some of their moments are, this actually feels way more natural than so many other rom-coms that you will find, not just over in Japan, but over here in the Western hemisphere, where things are just forced, obviously forced. And while there are definitely some weird, awkward moments in this manga, when you go through it, especially a second time like I have, and you can knock out this manga with its 32 chapters within an hour, when you go back, you realize actually just how natural the progression is. Yes, it's weird and everything, but it is again time, proximity, and communication that makes this unexpected relationship work out. And the mangaka did a good job of making sure that all of these bizarre situations were actually fairly decently set up. While we would not normally expect this kind of stuff to happen in real life, you can actually see the proper sequence of events that would lead to some of these weird things, as opposed to so many others where it's like, we must have an accidental boob grab. How will I do it? Oh, I know. He will come swinging in through the window, for some odd reason, trip over that eraser, fall down a flight of stairs right as she is being rocketed from a science experiment. They collide. They will then go crashing into the warehouse, and then accidental boob grab. Oh my, isn't it so romantic? No, it's just weird. Where the heck did that come from? And so, all of this to say that, yeah, I actually do recommend this. Again, you can knock out I'm Addicted to Her easily within an hour. Very brief, quick chapters. There's only 32 of them, which is sad, but it still tells actually a pretty good story. And I applaud the mangaka for being able to wrap up the story in a very realistic way, despite having their series axed prematurely, because it's obvious that this wasn't supposed to happen. When you read the last two chapters in a little special, you realize that the mangaka was suddenly given the axe and said, yeah, your story isn't going anywhere. And yet on the fly, as opposed to so many other stories out there, unfortunately looking at you there, Owl House, being able to wrap up everything so quickly and in a way that just felt really good, really heartfelt, really heartwarming. And from this weird muscle mama abs obsessed story? Yeah, I was not expecting that. And again, a quick bit of writing advice, which I've already said a couple times here in this video, that if you want to write a very believable romance, something that people will understand, they're like, oh, okay, I understand how this progressed. I understand how these opposites could actually be attracted to each other, despite all of the things that you've thrown at them or the contrivances that you've made. Time, proximity, and communication. Characters who fall in love with each other should be spending a fair amount of time with each other in order for them to get to know one another, to have those opportunities for good communication that allow them to bear who they are, bear their souls, bear their hearts, and misunderstand each other, yes, and then overcome those misunderstandings, argue and make up and learn about each other and actually come to love who each one is. And then proximity. Proximity sounds kind of strange right there because you're like, okay, then, well, proximity is just an aspect of time. But proximity means that these characters are actually close together, that they have real interactions. You can write, for instance, long-distance relationships, and those are great, but in reality, long-distance relationships are so difficult because they lack the proximity, where characters, where real people, I should say, can actually reach out and interact. Physical touch is important in a relationship, even if it's just hugs and holding hands. And being with each other allows you to read the other person's mood and tone a whole lot better, to catch their body language, to spend time doing things together, because when you do things together, that helps to strengthen and solidify your relationship and your communication. So a good romance will require time, proximity, and communication. There you go. I've given you yet more keys to write excellent romances. You know, the funny thing is this is just a little bit of side real-life commentary on Lars here. It's kind of funny that I keep coming back to talking about how to write good romances when I'm more of a thrill junkie author. I love writing big battles. I love writing grand quests, huge epic fantasy set pieces, and science fiction. And romance is usually just kind of like a little spice that I will sprinkle there. If I do, I've only written one rom-com, which is Notice Me, Send Pie. And yet, I absolutely love talking about romances. I wonder what that says about me. In any case, once again, I highly recommend I'm Addicted to Her. If you're looking for just a fun, quick manga to read to knock out in a day, this is the one for you. And if you're looking for more reviews, analyses, recommendations, and writing insights, then please check out our other videos here on our channel. We would love to have you here for the whole adventure. And if you'd like to support the work that we do, then please check out the books that we have published. Like I said, I have published my own rom-com, Notice Me, Send Pie. Kind of a little bit of a spoof on anime tropes and anime setups for a rom-com. I think you'll really enjoy it. Or if you want to read some of my great epic fantasies and the likes, then you can check out The Legend of the Ten Lords or Bleed, Steam, and Steel, and I think you'll really enjoy them. But otherwise, thank you so much for joining us on this incredible adventure that we call writing, and until the next video, y'all, tschüss.